For what purposes, Gentleman Pocahontas seek the floor?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would I be in order for a point of personal privilege?
You are in order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, I'd like to share with you a story written by Kirsten Powers, a USA Today columnist. Infant beheadings, severed baby feet in jars, a child screaming after it was delivered alive during an abortion procedure. Haven't heard about those sickening accusations? It's not your fault. Since the murder trial of Pennsylvania abortion doctor Kermit Gosnell began March 18th, there has been precious little coverage of the case that should be on every news show and front page. The revolting revelations of Gosnell's former staff, who have been testifying to what they witnessed and did during late-term abortions, should shock anyone with a heart. NBC 10 Philadelphia reported that Stephen Massoff, a former Gosnell worker, described how he snipped the spinal cords of babies, calling it literally a beheading. It is separating the brain from the body. One former worker, Adrian Moulton, testified that Gosnell taught her his snipping technique to use on infants born alive. Massoff, who like other witnesses has pleaded guilty to serious crimes, testified it would rain fetuses and blood all over the place. Here's the headline the Associated Press put on a story about his testimony that he saw 100 babies born and then snipped. Chaos isn't really the story here. Butchering babies that were already born and were older than the state's 24-week limit for abortions is the story. There's a reason the late Democratic Senator Daniel Patrick Moynihan called this procedure infanticide. Planned Parenthood recently claimed that the possibility of infants surviving late-term abortions was highly unusual. The Gosnell case suggests otherwise. Regardless of such quibbles about whether Gosnell was killing the infants 1 second after they left the womb instead of partially inside or completely inside the womb, as a routine late-term abortion is merely a matter of geography. That one is murder and the other is a legal procedure is morally irreconcilable. A LexisNexis search shows that none of the news shows on the 3 major national television networks has mentioned the Gosnell trial in the last 3 months. The exception is when the Wall Street Journal columnist Peggy Noonan hijacked a segment on Meet the Press meant to foment outrage over an anti-abortion rights law in some backward red state. The Washington Post has not published original reporting on this during the trial, and the New York Times saw fit to run one original story on A17 on the trial's first day. They've been silent ever since, despite headline-worthy testimony. Let me state the obvious. This should be front-page news. When Rush Limbaugh attacked Sandra Fluke, there was nonstop media hysteria. The venerable NBC Nightly News, Brian Williams, intoned a firestorm of outrage from women after a crude tirade from Rush Limbaugh as he teased a segment on the brouhaha. Yet accusations of babies having their heads severed, a major human rights story, if there ever was one, doesn't make the cut. You don't have to oppose abortion rights to find late-term abortion abhorrent or to find the Gosnell trial eminently newsworthy. This is not about being pro-choice or pro-life. It's about basic human rights. The deafening silence of too much of the media, once a force for justice in America, is a disgrace. Aristotle said that the least initial deviation from the truth is multiplied later 1,000-fold. An initial deviation from the laws of nature and of nature's God, the initial deviation from the principles as set forth in our Declaration of Independence, the initial deviation from the protections, the equal protection under the law that the 14th Amendment of the Constitution demands of us. This is the story that we get. At the conclusion of World War II, the United States participated in 2 trials, one in Germany and one in Japan. As part of the Axis powers, we held officials from both Nazi Germany and from Imperial Japan responsible for violations of the laws of nature. That wasn't too long ago. That was just the 1940s. We recognized when you violate the laws of nature. And when the judges, elected officials, appointed officials, military officials got on the stand and said, we're just following the law, we didn't buy it. We executed them. At the conclusion of World War II, Allied powers officials made the people from Germany walk through the concentration camps to see what occurred there and to show them the violations of natural law. They wanted it seared into their minds. Any law that man creates that violates the laws of nature is no law at all. It is not justice. Perhaps every elected and appointed official here in the United States needs to take a tour of one of these baby murdering factories and see the torn limbs, whether it's late term or whether it's at 13 or 14 weeks, and walk through and see the arms and the legs and the severed heads. Any initial deviation from the truth has gotten us to the point in this nation where we just callously forget about the life, that precious life, innocent life in the womb. We forget about that innocent person. It's not even worthy of a news story. I would just like to close and say that this initial deviation has even affected us who are trying to fight for the innocent lives. In this chamber and other chambers across the nation, we have bills that are being filed and being passed and laws written that do deviate from this initial truth. Bills that say a baby can survive or when it can be killed, when it can't be killed, based on whether it has a heartbeat or whether it feels pain. Well, if we are going to continue to deviate from that initial truth, we will continue to get these kinds of stories. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Any initial deviation from the truth has gotten us to the point in this nation where we just callously forget about the life, that precious life, innocent life in the womb. We forget about that innocent person.